conventionally armed missiles with GPS technology, by the way, Russian, making its missiles much more accurate. This means Iran can now target Israel's own nuclear, bio, and chemical weapons stockpiles located inside Israel, as well as the Dimona nuclear reactor. I have letters and reports and open journal articles from Israel that they are thinking of shutting down the Dimona reactors because they think it may be targeted by Iran if the shooting war starts. That in the last week. Continuing in the letter, in short, Iran has achieved a conventional deterrent to Israel. Therefore, statements by Iranian officials that Iran has no nuclear weapons program are, in my view, probably correct. Even if they did have half a dozen, how foolish would they be to shoot them? Presently, Iran does not need nukes to deter Israel. It can do this with GPS-guided medium-range missiles. The Israelis, no doubt, are gnashing their teeth over this because they now find themselves threatened by their own weapons of mass destruction stockpiles and by their own nuclear reactors, especially Dimona, all of which have become targets. A few direct hits by Iran could cause a toxic plume killing thousands of Israelis. A worst case might signal the end of the Jewish state. It is more important to realize that Iran would never launch a preemptive strike on Israel because the Iranians know that the U.S.-Israeli response will be devastating. However, if Iran comes under attack first, all bets are off. Iran will defend itself. A counterattack on Israel cannot be ruled out because Iranian leaders understand clearly, even if the American public do not, that the crisis has been manufactured on Israel's behalf. From the Israeli standpoint, the present Iranian deterrent, though conventional, is simply unacceptable. Israel's military strategists have always insisted on total freedom of movement. This is why Israel refused a U.S. offer many years ago to sign a defense pact with the U.S. Such a treaty would have limited Israel's freedom of movement, and this was unacceptable. Israel's leaders prefer to remain independent. Israel has always insisted on the freedom to intimidate its neighbors, whether and however it chooses, including attacks on Palestine and Lebanon. Iran's conventional missiles now curtail that freedom. Israeli officials probably worry, for example, that Iran's conventional missiles would limit its freedom to attack Hezbollah in Lebanon. In a future conflict, Hezbollah is closely allied with Tehran, and they have 60 to 80,000 medium-range missiles that can go hundreds of miles north of the Litani River that can strike every square inch of Israel, right down to Eilat. I believe the present crisis has been manufactured to create a pretext for U.S. air campaign to take over Iran's conventional missile sites. The U.S. will also target Iran's nuclear facilities, but the primary target will be Iran's conventional missiles. The U.S. will be doing Israel's bidding. The Zionist tail will be wagging the servile U.S. dog. And by the way, the Russian S-300 system sold through Venezuela by Hugo Chavez to Iran is the most advanced next to the S-400 system around Moscow, the most advanced anti-weapon system for missiles or planes in the world. And they have the Chinese-based scalar harmonic weapons that can knock out our GPS guidance systems or missile systems and our aircraft. And they proved that they're able to jam and take down our drones. So it's not going to happen that they're going over Iranian airspace like they did over Libya and Tunisia. It's not going to be a cakewalk. And the generals know this, and that's why they're not stupid. So if they're sitting out in the Stennis, it's a rubber duck sitting out there waiting to get shot down and go to the bottom of the Mediterranean with 6,000 sailors, men and women, and equipment, $5 billion carrier, the Stennis, and all this. It's accompanying vessels. This is not a good thing, and we have a fool in the White House. Obviously, you can't generate public support for such a bombing campaign on Israel's behalf. Hence the cover story about nukes and alleged Iranian threat to wipe Israel off the map, all of which is untrue, but very effective propaganda nonetheless. And by the way, the only politician who's talking about pulling back from these kind of wars is President Ron Paul. And we need to pray on our face, not on our knees, get down on our faces and cry out to the Most High God that unless our president takes his office in the White House, we are doomed, because he's the only one talking about pulling back from these proxy wars as a golem, a beast for the global satanic Israelis who are not servants of the Most High God, but as Jesus would say, the synagogue of Satan. Obviously, you can't generate public support for such a bombing campaign on Israel's behalf. Hence the cover story about nukes and an alleged Iranian threat to wipe Israel off the map, all of which is untrue, but very effective propaganda nonetheless. And we hear it from Rick Santorum, the fool that he is, the idiot, and we hear it from also the fool Romney, who both want to bomb Iran. The clones of McCain said, bomb Iran as a takeoff of the Beach Boys song. The problem for the U.S. is that depriving Iran of its conventional deterrent will not be easy to accomplish. Indeed, it will be even more difficult than taking out all of Iran's nuclear facilities. Iran's conventional missiles are probably widely dispersed. By the way, Iran is one-third the size of the continental United States in area, and half of it is mountainous. If they come under attack, the purpose of the air campaign will be transparently obvious to the Iranian leadership. Faced with the prospect of losing their deterrent, the mullahs may well decide to fire their conventional missiles. If they do and manage some direct hits on Israel's nuclear, bio, and chemical weapons stockpiles, the ensuing disaster will prompt an Israeli response. Israel may even resort to the Samson option, which they publicly stated in the past, by the way, and attack Iran with nukes. Words cannot describe the horrific scale of such an outcome. Unfortunately, is all too possible. Early in the war, the U.S. naval forces in the Gulf will also come under attack. No mistake, Iran has enough anti-ship cruise missiles to pose a grave threat to the U.S. naval presence in the Gulf. And I'm going to say this, thus saith the Lord, if America tries to attack Iran, and they have the Stennis and this carrier group out there, they're going to the bottom. And if you're sitting in your naval ships and listening to this on your radio, you better start praying. If you're a Christian commander or naval officer, you need to turn back. You need to tell your people back in Washington, D.C., you are not pawns in a bathtub called the Mediterranean Ocean over World War III, because you will die. And no matter how many bristling weapons you have, you can't stop all of the things that have been sold to Iran and given to them, or they've back-engineered to themselves, like the Hoot missile. This missile that goes through the water like a cavitation torpedo. Thousands of U.S. sailors are now in harm's way and at risk. U.S. rally to prevent such a war. Peace activists must now marshal every asset for the peace that we possess. The American people need to know the truth. This is a phony crisis, yet the danger is very real. Now is the time to speak out with all our strength. Tomorrow will come too late. Back in a moment, your questions.